This episode is sponsored by the Lighthouse Emotional Wellness Center in Schaumburg, Illinois, offering the most comprehensive and effective family counseling program in the Midwest called Family Synergy Therapy. For more information on how we can help you and your family, look us up online at lighthouseemotionalwellness.com.
She's not in a box and closed-minded, right? She's really, thinks about things. And it was that, I think, that drew me to her.
He was a joyful person. And I just simply had been through so much shit that I wanted to find somebody that just had joy and was seeking joy. That was very important to me.
Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Welcome back to another episode of Couples Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean, and this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Check us out online at couplessynergy.com and be sure to subscribe to our podcast or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. And now on to Couples Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring you our experiences working with thousands of couples for over 15 years.
Every day we get to hear intimate details about a couple's celebrations, disappointments, and everyday challenges. We've often wished these stories were shared because we know we are more similar than different. And so we've created not only an avenue where you can hear about people's intimate lives, but an atmosphere where people come over to our home pub, pour a drink, and share their stories.
People like today's guests, Deb and Bob. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Very good.
Thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
You're welcome.
Happy to be here.
Let's start with, how old are you guys? And what do you do for a living? And maybe something nobody knows about you.
So I'm Deb. I'm turning 50 this year in about less than 6 months. I don't know. I feel good about it. I'm being coy, but I actually feel pretty good about that.
Cool.
And so I'm in marketing, predominantly do a lot of writing for webinars and content creation, sales materials, brochures, really the gamut.
How long have you guys been together?
We've been together 15 years. Well,
married 15.
Married 15, yeah.
Together
16
and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
And you?
Oh, 48 technically. I'll be 49 in 4 days or 3 days. So I run a sales team for a technology company.
Cool.
Great. And something nobody knows about you.
I don't know how big of a secret it is. I pride myself on, I love history. I love documentaries, but my guilty pleasure, I've one really cheesy and I can't define it or explain why, but I have been known to binge watch The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Of New Jersey.
Oh, wow. That's the only one.
That's the only one. I can't explain it.
Wow.
It's weird. Yeah. Yeah. And I have to do it in
New Jersey.
I don't even own up to that to my kids. I have to do that in secret because I can't even justify it.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
What about you, Bob?
The one thing I always say that surprises people is I'm a patent holder.
A patent holder?
Yes. An invention of a pump charger for a iPhone, I guess, technically.
Or
but
cell
it could
phone.
be any
cool.
smartphone. But a emergency pump charger.
So you could charge your phone.
Right.
By just mechanical.
Pumping. That's awesome because we hike and we have the solar chargers, but at night that doesn't work.
So
right.
While it's a patent, it's not practical at this point to make. So,
Oh, darn.
it's still out there.
But you hold the patent.
But I technically hold the patent. Yes. We had a prototype. It worked. Not that efficiently, but, went to China from that invention. Some Chinese investor was trying to, see if it was worth making, brought us to China, me and my partner at the time. So, yeah.
That's cool.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Maybe one day it comes to fruition, we can have them as a sponsor.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
A word from our sponsor, the pump charger.
By my power.
That's awesome.
So can you guys tell us the story of how you met?
Well, I'll start. You can feel free to chime in.
So we get it straight, right?
You guys practice before you get here?
No. Well, we were coworkers, and I was divorced, and he was my buddy Bob, and a group of us would go out after work and commiserate about life and work and so forth. And he was going through a rough time in his marriage, and just would, bounce things off of, hey, you guys, have you ever encountered this, or, what about that? Or, and we would all just kind of sit around and share our relationship stories. So it was sort of like this, like we're doing now. It's very similar because it was at a bar, right? After work. And so.
Full circle.
So I'll talk about specifically when we met. That's the more general story. We were in Indianapolis, right? Meeting for the first time. And I'm thinking, what the heck? What, we're there for a conference. And then
meeting.
My boss had said, you have to meet this, young lady. We're thinking of using her for marketing. Okay, fine. She comes in all, bubbly and stuff. And where's that? Like the something Mark Hotel in Adams Mark Hotel in Indianapolis. I remember that specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So you were interviewing? Is that?
Well, no, she had already been promised the job, but I thought, we're interviewing this person, but our boss, he already told her she had the job.
Yeah.
Just tell them,
He basically said, yeah, you're hired now. Go to this meeting with my people and just sit in and absorb and listen in. And so he had no idea why I was there. And it was kind of awkward. Yeah.
And what was your first impression?
Yeah, I'm thinking, who is this?
Who the hell
chick?
is this?
Right? Okay, I guess, yeah.
I always tell him he didn't barely notice me at all. It was really.
Yeah, I'm being honest. I mean, just, I was like,
and
why am I meeting with this?
And you're married at the time.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Yeah.
And how long until you guys start dating?
Oh, not
2.5 years.
Yeah. Something like, yeah.
It was 01?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have been 03.
And in fact, when he, and so now we're, jumping a bunch of time, but over those years, he had ups and downs with his marriage, and again, confided in friends, and he was my buddy Bob. And I can remember.
Did he ever confide in you, like just you, or was it in a group?
Yeah. Once we got to know each other over the course of time, he would, stop by my office and say, hey, can I ask you something? Bounce something off of me.
A lot of advice. Mm-hmm. She'd been there. She'd been divorced.
I'd been divorced, and I had been through a lot of counseling myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big proponent of counseling. So I always encourage people, hey, if you're not seeing a counselor, it's great to talk to a friend. It's great to talk to a buddy. But really, if you can find, a counselor that's good and solid.
I went the inexpensive route. I went to talk to her, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you created an intimacy during that time?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And in fact, I can remember at one point him telling me that he was it was back and forth. Should I stay or should I go? He just was at that point. Mm-hmm. And then I can remember at one point him telling me, I've made the decision. It's really hard, but I'm staying in this marriage. And I said, well, good for you. Hey, you no longer struggle in limbo. It's good to have a path. And now you know what the path is. I can remember him leaving that conversation and keeping to myself. There was a part of me, and I was a little bit surprised, like, oh, okay.
So you almost like you were kind of let down a little bit.
And I was really surprised by that, but I didn't confide that. Okay. No, because I didn't want to.
Because that would have been
buddies. Bob,
sure.
He was my friend Bob, and I wanted the best for him. After that, I don't know how much time. Several months went by, and then he said, "No, I can't do it anymore." And after he left the relationship, and the first time he asked me out, I said no.
What? Why?
I said no because I said,
she would be known as the,
everyone who doesn't know us.
Yeah.
The
one who broke up the marriage.
Yeah. I mean, that besides that intimate group that would go out with us, everyone else would assume.
And the fact is, they all probably assumed that anyway. So it didn't matter. You weren't changing anything by delaying.
People were, at the end of the day,
delaying the goodness.
True. But what it came down to really was the people who know us and love us, we're going to respect, our decision to move forward in a relationship.
Right.
And the people who had preconceived ideas and,
Right.
Stuff happens. People who've been, when you're married a long time, as you guys know and have heard, I'm sure, life happens, right? There's no straight line, ups and downs and all over the place. And when you're young, you're more judgmental, I think,
right.
And as you get older, you're like, okay, I get it. You don't have to tell me I know, I get it.
So what was going on for you during that time?
Honestly, the main thing was a lot of lack of intimacy, that you expect with the marriage, and you lose that. I think that's where, we connected in terms of being able to talk to somebody. And
it's not all people think intimacy physical, but it really was emotional.
It was mental, and you need that connection that, even, physically it wasn't all there either, but, it's the whole package. That's what I think as a human you want.
So when you were confiding in her, did you have any feelings for her at that time?
I don't recall, Ray.
Is this your... Can I approach the bench?
Oh,
I am pleading the fifth.
I don't recall.
No, so because obviously you felt close enough to her to confide.
Yeah, your mind wanders.
Right?
You think what could be, and what you hope to be someday. And honestly, I even told my kids. I said, I'd had many talks picking them up, from my ex's house and stuff, and I was very honest. I said, yeah, did I like Debbie? Of course I did. Mentally in your head, when you're checking out, your mind, it goes to what can be. And that was absolutely happening. There's no doubt.
Would you say that, because our belief is everything's a 50-50, right? The way a couple creates a relationship. So your relationship's in a place that you two have created that allows this gap for you to seek something somewhere else because you're not getting it from your wife.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you did your best to try to have that with her?
I think so. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would bring it up in conversation many times, and it would, for whatever reason, she wouldn't want to discuss it. Right. It was whether emotional for her or whatever, it was a, point she didn't want to discuss. She didn't want to discuss the issues or problems. Right. And, the couple times, that I remember bringing it up, it didn't go anywhere.
You did do couples counseling.
Yeah, but that was after after you're like, okay, I'm thinking I'm done. Right. But then by then you're checked out anyway. At that point, you've, tried. And
it's hard to trust that once you've tried that much.
Well, then, of course, but that's exactly it. Because when, when you can't trust that, wait a second, if I invest, because you're investing in that relationship, right? Your time, everything.
Mm-hmm. And you had how many kids with her?
Two. Yeah. So, did I try? I think I did. You could argue the level of effort, of anybody, but I do recall, really trying to have a discussion about the issues, and just didn't go anywhere.
Well, and I think and without, you can chime in, but their expectations of what a marriage is and should be, they were on two different pages.
Right.
In terms of intimacy, in terms of, those types of things. And I mean, not that they didn't enjoy each other's company, but it was, when it becomes a roommate situation and one person's fine with that.
Right. Ray, what is the statistic about sexless marriage? How many times a year before it's called sexless marriage?
I think it's like less than 4 times a year.
Yeah.
It's a sexless marriage.
I think that's
like once a quarter.
A very common thing that we see with our couples, unfortunately. There's a lot of sexless marriages out there. Yeah.
Right. And what you were talking about there being roommates, we call that parallel lives. Mm-hmm. Where you're never intersecting. Maybe you're co-parenting. Yeah. But when it comes to actual connection, that's that's absent.
Yeah, because we got along fine, I would say, right? Other than the obvious issue, and and that was the only thing that really caused the friction. The friction in the relationship was bringing issues up. Other than that, everything was great, but it was parallel lives.
How old were your kids during this time?
4 and 1, I think. 3 and 1, and less than 1.
And how long did you have that problem before you left?
Well, at that time, that was, I left right after my youngest at the time turned 1.
Yeah. And that had been going on before the oldest was born.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my
so
oldest.
Before you had kids, it was already going on.
Yeah, slightly before. But then, when it was time to have kids, it was no problem, right? Then it's, let's get busy, right? But then
did having your first child affect the relationship you guys had? Like we see that a lot where the mom starts to devote everything to the kids and not to the relationship.
Yeah, she was absolutely like that. I would say, but in a good way for the kids, bad way for us. Right. I mean, it was all about the kids, and it continued to be all about the kids even after we were divorced. Anytime we'd have an issue, it'd always be about the kids. And I think that's the one thing we do, which is tough to do, is balance it out with, doing for yourselves as well, for the relationship, care and feeding the relationship. As difficult it is to try to go away.
I like that, care and feeding of a relationship. We got to put that in the book.
Yeah, that's
really a great
awesome
term.
Copyright.
You didn't patent that one.
It's your patent over here.
So Deb, how about you? What's going on in your world before you guys get together?
Yeah, so I had been divorced already for almost 5 years when I met Bob. Very different situation. I had been married for 5 years and tried to have children, had trouble conceiving. It sounds cliche, that I finally get pregnant and he decided to leave. But the irony is, he led me to believe that that's really was still his goal too. And that's what he wanted. But I think just, the years of trying and losing babies and, it just
took a toll.
And I think he just started making other plans. What if my life?
How old were you at this time?
I was 30.
And how many pregnancies did you lose?
There was just one, but a lot of false alarms. But one
that's a
major miscarriage.
That's a really big topic we hear too. And it's so painful because you have no control.
Right. Exactly. I had no control. And then for me, when I got into therapy heavily, because it was an abandonment issue for me. It was a betrayal. My body was betraying me. My husband betrayed me. So I was like, wow.
So you get pregnant.
Yeah.
And what's he doing?
He has a midlife crisis at age 30. He moves to the city. He starts hanging around with 22-year-olds. He's 30. He gets a whole new wardrobe, a whole new set of friends. And now I'm pregnant in the burbs, just what I always wanted to be, a single mom.
Did he leave you, or was he just doing that and you didn't know?
He was starting to do that life, and then he left.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. So I left Chicago area for a while, moved back to my home state to be around family. And when my daughter was about 18 months, I was kind of a fish out of water. I realized, all of my support system, my friends, not that my family wasn't a support system, but my life that I had known and thought I was going, the trajectory I was on was all happening in Chicago. I hadn't lived at home for, many, many years. So I felt like I used to have dreams that I had, like I was the pregnant teen that got sent back home with her mom, even though I was 30.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, how did I get here?
Right.
So hauled my daughter and I back to Chicago.
How old is she at the time?
She's almost 2.
Okay. So you're flying solo.
I'm flying solo. My entire paycheck went to rent, daycare. I didn't have a car payment at the time, thank God. Bills. I mean, we're talking no money left over.
Yeah.
I just told my girls about Google all the free stuff you can. You can't believe how much you can do with kids with no money.
Right.
If you look for it.
Yeah.
And by the time I met Bob, I was back on my feet. I was doing it. I'm like, okay, I've got my new plan. I've got my new, I'm on my path. And I was feeling pretty confident, being this single mom, career woman.
And is this when you get the job at his company?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I get the job. He's like, who is she? Yeah, I get the job.
I had to interview her first. It's not like she was offered the job before I interviewed her.
But I'm not, I'm sympathetic to what he's going through and other people who are struggling in marriage are going through divorce. But I'm not looking for, I'm carving my new path. I'm on my.
Which I highly recommend. You know, when you go through a divorce, to have a good chunk of time where you stand on your own 2 feet, get to know yourself really well, get that self-care in a really good place.
Exactly.
Maybe love yourself. What a crazy concept.
What?
Right?
Yeah. I think, truly, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Well, we tell that to our kids too. I mean, that exact thing. Get to know yourself, because we both were married at a young age and, initially, you don't know yourself necessarily. Many people don't, let's say it that way, at 23 or 4. as you get in your later 20s or even early 30s, I think you get to know yourself a little better.
There's that. And I was, also thinking too, everybody, we're growing or we're dying. Right?
Absolutely. I think you're quoting me.
I think I might be quoting you. I know. Who am I quoting? I looked at him.
Copyright.
I'm quoting someone.
Can't quote you.
This is the copyright show.
But, when you're young and, you're kind of all growing in the same direction and, oh, cool. I think you get to a point where, or some couples they're growing, but the other one not only can't respect that or doesn't give that their partner the space to, okay, well, that's you. And it doesn't have to be me.
And sometimes the relationship isn't even safe enough.
Right.
So here's a tough question, and you guys might not know the answer. Did you know before you got married the first time that it wasn't
meant to be?
Yeah. For me, that is not a tough question because I've done a lot of work on it.
Yeah.
My whole first marriage, and I tell my daughters this, was me clearly. I knew in my gut it was not right. I knew in my gut. And I ignored that. I thought other people knew better than I did. I thought my ex knew us and he could have faith for both of us that this was going to be good. In hindsight, he probably didn't have any faith either, but I was very, I was at a place and it's something I've struggled my whole life where everybody probably knows better than I. And if I listen to enough advice, I can be swayed, or I could at the time.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of domestication for girls.
Yeah. I was just learning my own mind at that young age, but I didn't have the conviction to speak my mind and to really, I slowed down the engagement as much as I could. And I think I had so much self-worth issues that I thought, well, what if this is the only opportunity? What if,
right.
What if
it's not like there's a line out the door?
There's not a line out the door.
Kind of settled.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go through a lot of relationships as a teenager. I didn't have that. So, I was kind of swept off my feet and thought, okay, kind of like getting on the roller coaster, like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Yeah.
How about for you, Bob?
Well, for me, no, I would say the exact opposite. I just think I don't know any better. You're young, you're just happy go lucky. You think this is what you do. And I didn't have that feeling of, oh, no, this may not be it. I was like, yeah, life, bring it on, get married and have kids. That's what we're supposed to do. You just don't know what you don't know. I think I went into it more naive or
just looking back. Were there red flags
early on? No, not really. I mean,
well, your parents weren't exactly on board.
No, they weren't. That's where I say not really. I mean,
that would be a flag.
Now that's a flag, an external flag.
Sure.
Right.
But do I think it led to the demise of the marriage? I don't think so. I think there were other issues that, my ex may have experienced, depression, et cetera, early on that led to that. I mean, if I'm being honest, that was definitely a flag. I don't know if it's red, maybe yellow warning, but I don't think it led to...
Yeah, there were people that weren't happy. We were
that's
married,
correct.
So,
Or for us too.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the day when you knew the marriage was over for you?
I do. Yeah. I remember the place I was at. Target parking lot.
What happened?
Well, I that's when I remember I was done, checked out, finito, because I was talking to her and, getting a counseling session, so I can.
What was it about that session, I should say?
Well, it wasn't that session. I had been checked out and then I, talked to her, to let her know that, I think because I'd been talking to her, nope, I'm in it. It was just, after a while, it's a grind. At the time, my ex had said, I think it's time for you to move out, because she could tell I was distant and checked out, right? But it was a ploy, I believe, and she said this. She'd admit this and admitted at the time that, it was incorrect of her to do so. I think it was, maybe something somebody had suggested to her to say, hey, this will get him to.
It's like a game.
Exactly. Yeah. So and I'm like, nope, because I remember her calling me the next day at work and saying, I think that was not the right decision. And I'm like, no, I think it was right. So it's almost like, you needed a little push
Where'd
too.
you go?
I got my own place apartment.
Wow.
So within, a week. That was a week before Christmas 2002, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I was out by the 22nd or 3rd. So that was a pretty tough time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you're working on it for that long of a period of time. Obviously, you're 4 years into, I knew I was not happy, right? And then when the moment comes and then you get that emotional distance, it just breaks.
And that's how it was.
Yeah.
It was definitely, a break.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, no.
So you broke that and bonded at the same time. Like,
yeah. Bonding, I would say not at the same time, but it was over time for sure. Because there was a friendship that was built first,
Yeah. And then we came into this interesting place where, I had the time, I had the distance to rebuild, and I wanted that for him. And
that's why I got the no.
Yeah, that's why you got the no on the
first
asking out. And that's what I kept trying to, over time be like, no, hey, why don't you just figure some stuff out? Why don't you just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But, too, over the period of months, I came to realize I did have feelings for him. And, you just sit there and you go, okay, well, do you just sit around and watch things play out, or do you, just move forward?
Do you think some of that is being female? Because I know I had a good 3 years of working on myself before I met Ray. And, I was 30 when I met him and he was 24. And he...
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Two thumbs up. I'm making two.
And he'd never lived on his own. You either lived with someone or your parents.
Right.
And he never had that space. And there was even a time during our dating where you even went to look at condos to try to do that. And you never got to do it.
But that was the plan.
But yeah.
Right.
But I think for women, because we're so over domesticated to behave and listen to what other people want, that it's really, really important for women to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe not so much for men. I don't know. Is that true? Or?
Oh, I was going to say when she was saying space, I'm like, I don't need that. We need space. When you guys, I didn't say it because I thought it might sound sexist, but you're saying it. So now it's okay to say, because that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, I don't need.
Well,
it's like when I got married the first time. Hey, time to get married. Let's do it.
And if we're going to be sexist, I would say men are just more selfish. So they're doing it all the time. Is that true?
Well,
where women are giving more all the time and not thinking about themselves.
Right.
We may get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
But I
think there's something.
There is actually a study that kind of polled men and their relationships over time. And they found that, men's friendships, they diminished over time. And that's because they put all their resources into their spouse, into their marriage, right? So they would really just kind of, fold into the marriage, and their spouse is supposed to become their best friend. Sometimes that doesn't happen. But I think that men are really more designed to do that, really to bond, with their spouse.
I'd agree with that, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Cleave to your wife.
Well,
when you knew that, the marriage was over?
For me, it was such a different scenario because, he left the marriage. But I can tell you that it was also a December timeframe for me. I can remember I had done, he was being more and more distant, and I had finished a big project at work. It was very high profile. President of the company at the holiday party shakes my hand, thanks me, showers praise, tells my ex, what a great job I've done. And I don't remember exactly what his response was, but it was so, he could have been the copy room guy. I mean, it just was not, it was nothing. It was just nothing. And I can remember looking at him like, wow, I feel no connection here. I feel you don't have my back. Not that this project was like make or breaking my career, but it was just something really special to me. It was so great to get the praise and to just look over and, he was like looking for the cheese platter,
I think there is some form of a bottom line that we learn as kids. you know, and if someone doesn't do that thing, you're like, okay, it doesn't matter if you've been cheating on me, if you've been nasty, I deal with that. But if you don't do this, like for me, it was a birthday gift. Like someone gave me a $25 gift certificate to the mall, and I'm like, no, you're not the one long term. Even though everything else, all those big red flags I couldn't listen to, but that one,
right?
You know.
I've made sure never to give her a gift certificate for anything.
Built this pub for her. Beautiful. My goodness.
Yes.
Oh, he didn't do it alone.
No, I know.
Brick by brick, we did it together.
That's good.
Awesome.
Bricking was my most fun thing. Well, I did all the stained glass, but the brick was really cool. Yeah. Okay, let's get to your guys' first date.
You know, what was technically our first date? Because we had, hung out so much, and I can't really. Was it the dinner at the mall? Was it the shopping thing?
That or the movies? Which was it? It was shopping.
Yeah.
I think it was shopping at the mall.
Yeah.
In the wintertime.
Yeah. So
where was that? That was North Shore.
Yeah, Old Orchard.
Old Orchard. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you guys are not buddies at this time.
Well, this is kind of the turning point, I think.
Yeah, what's buddies?
Well, I think our
kiss each other.
That was our first kiss. That was our first kiss. Yeah.
But you guys knew it was headed there that day.
Oh, sure.
I think so.
I did.
I think so.
Maybe I was overconfident. I don't know.
And what was it about the other person that you fell in love with?
God, I don't know. So many things, for sure. I mean, she was just, cute and bubbly and, full of life. It was awesome. She was, I love the fact that she was Catholic, or just at least believed in a higher power. We'd had many conversations about, crazy things like, is there, alien life out there and things like that. You remember that, California?
Yeah.
So, going back and thinking just, she's not in a box and closed minded, right? She's really, thinks about things. And it was that, I think, that drew me to her, kind of, willing to, think outside the box and, not in a closed way.
And bringing it back to what I said earlier, being not threatened when someone evolves. I no longer consider myself Catholic. It's part of my heritage, but my spiritual journey has moved on farther. And, that's actually freaked him out a little bit, yet he's respected it. And so anyway, just a side note.
Well, I tease her a little bit, but yeah, it is. Yeah.
Says now I practice voodoo, but that's not. No, but
and I believe that's how the afterlife is, by the way.
But I think getting back to what you're saying,
no, not voodoo. What she thinks.
No, but just bringing it all together. I was a very spiritual person, even though I had I was an organized religion at the time that I was following.
It wasn't necessarily the religion piece; it was the spirituality.
Why was that important to you?
I don't know. My ex wasn't grounded like that at the time. Didn't have that, but yet my family, we grew up relatively religious, Greek Orthodox, perhaps the tradition, right? My ex grew up, she was Jewish. So that was part of the, the rift at the time, with my parents, but, they came to befriend her and like her and all those good things. I think that was probably one of the contributing factors of that, kind of like, I really like that about her. Different than what I had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, where I was at the time, and it still holds true today, it was just, he talked about the whole package. We knew each other professionally, so we had respect on that level. But then you also get to know someone personally and how, he's a good dad, he's a caring dad. His biggest struggle with leaving his marriage was, how is this going to affect my kids? I don't think I can do this because I'm going to put them on a trajectory for the rest of their lives. So he really cared. He really gave it a lot of time and thought and energy. But at the same time, he's going through all these struggles. He was a joyful person. And I just simply had been through so much shit that I wanted to find somebody that just had joy and was seeking joy. That was very important to me, just, it didn't have to be anything big, any grand gestures, just
someone who could enjoy life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And laugh.
Yeah. So how long do you guys date before you get engaged?
Almost a
year.
Almost a year.
No, right. I'm trying to think.
It's been 15 years. I think almost a year.
February, March timeframe. So we got engaged January 24th, I believe, or 5th.
Did you guys live together before you got married?
Mm-hmm.
What was the decision about that?
I don't think it was a decision. I don't think there was a, kind of an overt thought of we are not going to, because we, of course, stay over and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of convenience because he had a place.
An apartment. Then I bought a townhome.
He had bought a townhome.
6 months in an apartment. Then I bought a townhome. That worked out because then we did an addition to the house she had bought. It was a 2-bedroom.
And my house that I was living in with my daughter, it was just a 2-bedroom little ranch. So
great neighborhood.
Yeah, but we just didn't. I just think he had just settled into a new routine, with his kids, and the kids were little. I think we just decided.
How did you guys meet each other's kids?
Birthday, right? Did we bring them together? Well, they had met. Ironically, the 2 oldest had come to the office for office party. It was a kind of office where you could bring your kids a lot.
And not like they knew each other. I mean, they would never remember it, but because they were just 3 or something, like 2 or 3.
Yeah. So they had actually met at office stuff, and then
was it Indiana? Did we go to Indiana?
No, your mom had a birthday party.
That's right.
For Jenna.
Yeah.
And I brought Zoe to the birthday party.
Right. Did you guys plan that? Like having the kids meet at the office stuff so it's like more neutral?
No, that happened
before they were dating.
Just before we were even dating.
Because at the time, my oldest was 3.5.
Yeah.
So they had my stepdaughter, who was the same age basically, but 2 months younger. They had met each other technically before, and we actually went to like a Disney on Ice thing too. We got tickets from the office.
Right.
So they'd seen each other a couple times, but would never remember. But yeah, I think the party, we had talked about it, said, does this make sense? Is it okay? We both felt comfortable with it.
Yeah. And it was around family,
And at that age, the kids don't know.
Yeah. It's pretty young.
Right?
Yeah.
And they grew up together like that. So it was very natural, for them.
Our youngest, his youngest, my stepdaughter, she really doesn't remember anything differently.
Right.
So
she's like 2 by the time you guys are married.
Even my oldest doesn't remember really. So
your roles at the office, did they interact with each other? Like
sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you guys didn't have any authority over each other?
No.
Okay.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked out.
So how did your relationship develop in the office, and how did people kind of react?
We tried to keep it secret for sure.
We did.
Yeah. Then my ex, showed up at the office and outed us when we went to Hawaii.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was done purposely.
Right.
Whatever. She was hurt. I get it. But
yeah.
So the office romance was revealed.
Yes. And there was another one going on at the time, and they were able to keep theirs secret.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Not us, though.
Right. And then truthfully, not too much. He didn't stay working there too much longer after we were dating because there were other things going on at the company, and he was looking to leave. And so.
Yeah. 2 eggs, same basket. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So did things change after that? After you guys were outed? Did coworkers
No.
interact with you differently?
Not at all.
No.
We were both well liked.
Yeah.
So
and again, I think because people knew him and they were familiar with his situation, they knew me. There was no drama.
Yeah.
So it really
was more like, oh, okay.
I thought I saw something.
Mm-hmm.
So how'd you guys get engaged?
That's a good story.
Yeah. So I told her that I had a work trip in Arizona.
Asked me to come along.
Yep. Asked her to come along. She's like, okay, fine. It was midweek. It had to be midweek, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be a work trip.
Right. Gotta leave on a Tuesday or something.
Exactly. So I had it all planned. We did it, had a room at the Four Seasons in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring that up for a specific reason for later. I had like rose petals and all that in the room and, that kind of stuff. And then,
really romantic.
Brought her we get to the hotel, we walk in and I turn around and tell her, oh, this isn't a work trip. It's a will you marry me trip. So, and she was surprised.
I love that line.
Yes.
It was a good line.
So,
So right in the lobby.
No,
in the room.
We've been taken to our room.
Oh,
yeah, they brought it. Bring the luggage and all.
They took us to the room, and he had called ahead and had them put, rose petals like you see in the movies. I mean, I'd never had any that's just.
And you were totally surprised.
Totally surprised.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the reason I say, the point that is in Scottsdale is important is because that's kind of like the connection that brought us back to Arizona over and over. And, that's a place we want to retire someday. Mm-hmm. And, we go many times per year. And, I think that's part of the connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Special
tradition.
It's tradition. Yeah. It's for us, it marks our place in the world physically where we hit the reset button and said, yes, this is.
So you walk into the hotel room.
Oh, yeah.
He says, this isn't a work trip.
This is a will you marry me trip. Yeah. And then the ring came out, right? At that point?
Sure, it came out.
And I mean,
it blinded her.
It blinded me.
Awesome. Very sparkly.
Yeah, I'm pretty low key. I don't wear a lot of jewelry. I'm not a big bling person. So I'm like, my head was spinning and see this gorgeous ring. And so it was really.
Do you get down on one knee?
I think I did. Yes. I believe I did.
It became like a dream sequence for me.
I can see it, but you asked me, I think I did. Because
I'm a bellboy, like, what do I do? I got to get out of here.
I think he backed out of the room.
He left because, you didn't notice the rose petals, I don't think, on the bed and stuff like that. Because they did that. I called ahead and they did it all, right? They put.
Well, and the one other little touch, but it was, it's about paying attention to just the little things. And it can really. I love raspberries. And raspberries and chocolate are there's no better combination for me in the world. That's my aphrodisiac, really. And so there was just a little cup of raspberries and some chocolate on the table with the flowers. I mean, just,
awesome.
Yeah. It was really.
I try to listen.
Did you guys?
You listen very well.
Did you ask her family at all? Did you do any of that stuff?
No. At this point, she's divorced once already. Yeah. She's like on her own at this point, right?
Yeah.
Had we been 25 or so, maybe.
And my parents didn't live in Chicago area. It's not like he could have just dropped by and chatted with them.
I didn't ask with my ex either, so
Yeah.
And the kids weren't really old enough to have to consider that.
No. Nope. But when we did marry, fast forwarding a little bit on the wedding invitation, I made sure that I had all the girls' names on there as well, that we invite you to this marriage, to this celebration of marriage.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's a blended family invitation. Almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, we did a little commitment ceremony during ours with Alec was 10 at the time.
Yeah. That's cool.
So how did you know that was the day that you were ready to propose?
That day was just, convenient.
It was convenient
because I picked it, I wanted to be, wanted to continue my life. So that wasn't, I guess you're saying just the timing in general.
Yeah. Right.
It's like you hit the reset button. And again, being a guy, you're like, okay.
How'd you pick the ring?
So again, listening, right? Try to, think about what's important to her. She really liked older things and
antiquities, older settings.
So I tried to find a ring, that had that look and feel to it. And it took her a while to actually, like she said, it was almost too flashy for her, because she looked at it and I could tell. I mean, the first few weeks or month or so, it was just almost too much for her. And it's not, it's not like it's that big a ring, right? But it's just.
by comparison, my wedding band is an antique. It's an antique.
Oh, cool.
Wedding. It's so thin. In fact, I'm worried someday I might have to get it reinforced.
We looked at antique stores for our wedding rings. Right. We just didn't find any, but that's cool.
But that's what I tried. I toyed with the idea of asking her, but that's kind of figure what the heck. It's at least she can say, well, my husband bought it for me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you know her ring size?
I don't recall if I tried to measure anything.
You might have.
I think I did. I might have
when I was sleeping.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a long time ago now. But yeah, I think I guessed. And it was Was it too big or at the time?
It was slightly too big. And of course, now, all these years later, it's very
I had the same thing.
Perfect.
It's what a happy
I think that just happens.
now I couldn't get it off if I wanted
We
to.
grow into it.
Right.
It's like a tree and it just develops.
Wait, you eat more when you're happy, right?
This is true.
There you
This
go.
is true.
There you go.
Happily married couples tend to be larger.
Happy.
That's some science.
Yeah.
Everyone loses weight when they go through divorce.
That's true too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you guys get married.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And was it like the big
Greek
My big
wedding.
fat
Greek
Greek wedding. It
yes.
was.
It was skinny
Not
down a
big.
little bit.
Yeah,
it was skinny down.
Small
but
by
it was.
Greek standards. But we did get married in the Greek Orthodox Church. She's at the time Catholic, right? So I've had to have gotten an annulment, right?
Mhm.
So we go, I say,
Which
hey,
I wasn't.
my parents would be really happy if we got married in the Greek Orthodox Church. I wasn't married in the Greek Orthodox Church the first time around. So that would be kind of cool. And I don't think they'll care. We meet with the priest. What'd he say?
The Greek priest.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I was married before, I was married in the Catholic Church. I never got an annulment. I really don't care to go through that process. He said, well, you weren't married in my church, so doesn't matter
Cool.
to me. I'm like, okay,
The
great.
Greeks want to stick it to the Catholics.
Work to your
The whole
advantage that
schism,
time.
right?
Fine by me. Let's do it. And because, to his point about tradition, and it actually, for my Catholic family, it was quite easy for them to follow along. The priest was great. He spoke both Greek and English and explained the significance of things the ceremony. And so that was really, really
Yeah,
cool.
it was good. It was familiar for them, I think.
Yeah.
So,
And they appreciated the explanation and the tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I understand it a little bit. Not the bigger words are hard to understand.
Yeah.
But so it was good for, I think, everybody.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that some family members were not okay with you guys getting married.
Not with us, no.
Oh,
No, that was
you
my
guys
first-
were fine.
first
The
marriage,
first
yeah.
marriage. Got it.
Yeah.
So after you guys get married, what are some of the challenges you guys ran into?
We had no problems. It was
Nobody was
smooth
perfect.
sailing. Oh my God.
Who's living in your house and how are people coming and going? Ones that don't live there.
Well, initially what we had decided to do, we loved my neighborhood. We loved, and it was a ranch. So we decided we were going to build a second story onto that ranch. So we moved into his condo during that construction.
Mm.
And I always tell him that first 6 months while that was happening, it was also new. It was like, you just got that adrenaline going and you're building a nest and literally and
Zoe's there full time?
So he's there full time. Jen and Becca come back and forth, every other weekend during the week.
visiting. Right. But it was, it was not easy. Obviously, he's still fairly newly divorced. His ex isn't, fully supportive of.
She's not letting go.
Nope.
So a lot of, struggles with, getting extra time with the kids. It would be, sometimes it would be no problem. Other times, whatever, she'd feel, like she wanted to control it and say, nope, it's not going to happen.
It was just basically someone coming from a place of a lot of pain and hurt and maybe embarrassment. I mean, I don't know all the emotions, but very emotional and really wanting to cause other people pain because you're in pain. And, if I'm not happy, you all shouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
So, we had to go to court for extra time with the kids, literally to get an extra day every other week. And some extra time here and there, was a pretty big effort to do that. But being that we wanted the kids to be together as much as possible and feel normal, right? Yeah. Have meals together, be together, do things together. That was super important.
That's the thing I think that was the kernel or the core piece for us. We both shared this vision of what we wanted our family to look like and to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very realistic. It was, I had watched friends of mine who grew up with stepbrothers and sisters and, call them sister, call them brother. Well, they're my stepbrother,
Mm-hmm.
And so we never, while we encouraged them to behave like siblings, it was never, forced, like call her sister, call him daddy. We never did any of that. Mm-hmm. But yet we were very clear on the family unit that we were building. And it was really a priority for us.
Did having a child together solidify your family?
Oh, for sure. We always call him the
glue.
What a good little accident he turned out.
But he didn't come till 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, and we had the same, trying, because we said we wanted to try to have a child together. And
I had fertility issues, obviously, in the past.
Just didn't happen.
It didn't happen. And we were like, okay, it's not meant to be, and
then it was.
What a surprise that was.
So, again, this is going to be a tough question. Do you think your kids would have been better off if you stuck it out in your marriages? Obviously, you didn't get a choice, but I think that's what people do when they're married and they're unhappily married and they think, I'm going to stay for the kids. Do you think your kids are better off because you divorced, or they would have been better off if you stayed married?
Well, I can tell you my feeling on that. That's the main reason that I didn't stay in, because I had seen other people who stayed because of the kids and didn't go any better. So, you can say, oh, I'm going to stay, and I'm going to take it on the chin, for years and years and years. And, the kids aren't going to notice that you're in essentially a loveless marriage, right? They notice.
They do.
They do, right? So, and that, at that age, I kind of, that was my fear, right? So I said, no, I'm going to do what I think is the right thing and make me happy so that they in turn will see a happy person, right? Not somebody who's depressed. And I honestly don't think in the long run, maybe they would have felt like I was part of a more traditional family, but would that have made them happier? You'll never know for sure, but I don't think so.
Yeah. And growing up Catholic, and I grew up in a community that very much, even in the 21st century, divorce, not a popular thing to do, right? You've made a bond, you made a sacramental bond with God that you don't break. And yet I watched over the years, it comes down to, if you're sticking it out for the kids and you're going through the motions, what are you teaching them marriage is? What is that really what you want to teach your kids marriage is? Mom and dad don't show affection. They act like roommates. They don't, I didn't want that definition of marriage for my kids.
So do you feel that you guys were able to create something that they could now model that is much healthier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
But man, is it, but at least it's real.
Yeah.
It's a real relationship. And I think we're pretty honest with the kids when we talk to them about stuff, right?
Well, yeah, it is. And it's like, the whole, do you fight? I'm sure you've 1,001, 2,001 times you've talked with couples about that. Yeah. You show them that you fight. And more importantly, you show them how you make up and how you come back together after that fight and get through the next day and week and month and year.
You don't actually show them. You tell them.
You tell them that you've repaired everything. Right?
They watch it.
But they feel it. It's in.
I was referring to make.
Yeah, that's what he's referring to.
Sorry,
that's where guys' minds go.
I missed that entirely.
I knew what he was talking about.
Okay. Yes.
I missed it too.
We're thinking conversation.
Right.
Conflict resolution.
But to your point, that repair attempts and repairing, that conflict is very important for the kids to be able to see, so that they know that conflict actually is part of being in a committed, healthy relationship.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're in trouble.
No. Well, sometimes you are in trouble.
Right.
Then you rectify it. Right.
Well, and you know what? You can explain to him. You sit him down and you say, hey, here's why we were disagreeing or whatever. And here's what, and this is what happens in a real relationship.
Exactly. I mean, Jimmy said to me not that long ago, it was after some argument we had and I was driving him to school and he goes, so, if you're mad at him, like, why'd you even marry him? He's 11. It's and love in 11, when you're 11, you break up, it's just, you move on.
And I think the world for an 11-year-old has a lot of throwaway stuff.
Yeah.
Not like it was, 50 years ago when we were kids.
Right. Right. And so I was like, wow, okay. Teachable moment here. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. In what way is your guys' relationship similar or different than your parents?
I will say, not to knock my parents, but,
And your parents have a unique...
They do. And that's so it's easy for me to say, we wanted to be together. Not that they didn't want to, because they absolutely had a choice. It wasn't one where you have no choice, but because
they were arranged.
They were as an arranged marriage. They were kind of pushed together, right? Not of their own doing necessarily. And so for us, it's, definitely a wanting to be together. Now, of course, over time, they want to be together, my parents, that is. But that's what I would say, for sure. That's the thing that sticks out the most.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're talking about a traditional Greek marriage where families kind of get together and arrange that they're going to meet and that they're going to be joining families together.
That's exactly right. So, yeah, that was very common, back in, they were, married in the 60s, 69. So, at that time, it was very common to try to marry off your children, especially the daughters, right? I mean, that was in the old country, quote unquote.
Right.
That's a very common occurrence. My aunt, my mother's sister, younger sister, actually, said years later, to us, nephews and nieces, that she was there at 12 or however 13. She was watching my mom get quote unquote married off. She's like, that's not going to be me, and it wasn't. She ran away and, came to the U.S. and all that. But yeah, it's the, knowing that in the back of your head that, my parents, that's how they got together and they're still together. And, it's something you put effort in, right? The care and feeding.
Did you see them fight?
My parents?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. They fought all the time. My dad left my mom on the road in, where were we? In South Dakota. I joke about it to this day. We're like, what? Why are you leaving mom?
He drove away.
He was pissed at her. I'm sure I know that feeling. I would have drove away for a day, But when you're married, that feeling. At the time when you're 10, you don't know that feeling. Like, that's my mom. And, he drove like 100 feet, right? But after you're in the car for 12 hours, right?
She was probably like, fine, I'll walk.
That should be what all engaged people do. Go on a car trip together.
Oh,
cross country.
That'll do it. That'll do it. Let me tell you, a convertible makes it easier.
So no, wait a minute. Let's go back to the original question.
What was the original question?
Your marriage, like or similar or different?
Different.
Yeah, very different.
I choose B.
Yeah, it's not similar at all. For me, my parents was not an arranged marriage, and my parents were my father has passed, much older than Bob's parents. In fact, ironically speaking, Bob's mom is the same age as my older sister.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many kids in your family?
I am the youngest of 6. Mm-hmm. Big Catholic family. So she started having babies at 23 and ended at 43. But one thing I will say similarly, tradition important, kids important, but my parents did make time for each other. They went bowling together. They didn't call them date nights back then, but they had activities they did. They took square dancing lessons. Of course, I was embarrassed as a kid. I didn't admit that my parents take square dancing lessons. She had the dress.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
He had the tie,
Jean still wants to do that.
I do. I've been looking for a place.
Yeah. And so
they invested in their relationship.
Even after 6 kids, they took the time and invested in the relationship.
Is that similar or different than you guys?
I think that's similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I didn't make that. Yeah. Yeah, no, we do. We carve out the time. Maybe not as frequently as we'd like, but we do.
You have to. I mean, if you want it to be successful, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you guys think of a time when your partner said something to you that was a really life-changing thing?
I can't think of, I'm sure the phrase, but I just know we went through a period of time, I had a lot of trust issues,
sure.
Obviously my background. Right. And, irrational fears and jealousies and so forth. And it was a period of many conversations, not just one, of his reassurance, that I was not going to be abandoned.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to feel safe?
Years. Years. I mean, there was.
I don't think that's an uncommon story.
Yeah.
And I think that is, if we're going to be sexist again, kind of a pathway. But we are designed to be bonded to each other, and it's tough when you have that broken.
Right. Even prior to my marriage, just going back to familial ties and so forth, became clear to me I had a long history of fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
And you're in this world on your own, kid. Good luck.
And that's the only place you ever feel safe. And then to open your heart to someone.
Yeah.
And to try to let them in again. And it's messy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Good job, Bob.
Right. Thank you.
I think that's a great thing to do for someone, and especially for a man to do for a woman, to help her feel safe in this world. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, for her, she struggles with that, self-worth and am I worthy, always reassure her.
Recovering Catholic.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's in everything, right? In work, in personal life. And I'm like, why isn't your default mode that, you are worthy, right? It's I get it. I mean, being married to her for 15 years plus now, it's something I accept that is not her default mode. And I try to reassure her all the time that, you are really good at what you do. You are a great wife. You do. She is more than worthy, right? And I think it's hard. She struggles with that, right? So,
well, with your past, the way you guys met, you had created a very independent life,
right?
Before your relationship started together. And so even if a couple doesn't create, a codependency, they have to develop a healthy version of interdependence, right? Where you are relying on your partner in certain ways. And that can be a very scary thing, especially if you had created that life where you didn't have to count on anyone.
Right.
Just counted on yourself.
Right. I had just figured all that out and was, on that path when this happened.
Well, law of attraction, right? And what you attracted before and what you can attract when you work on yourself.
Absolutely.
And you were doing your own work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll go the easy route on the answer to that original question. It was, when she called me and told me she was pregnant with our son, that was not like a, big watershed moment, like, oh yeah, we're gonna be married forever. But it was kind of eye-opening. And honestly, it was my ex who said something about, oh yeah, you're in this thing now, right? Because you just had a kid. But you think about it though, and really it was like solidifying the marriage. It was life-changing, to hear that and to say, it's not so easy. Because when, if you think about it analytically, I think like maybe many guys do, like, oh, I could, do the calculus in my head without a kid. You can walk away a lot easier, right? Break the tie, it's done. But, with a child, it solidifies the union, right? And I wasn't in that kind of frame of mind, but I'm saying, that really brought us to a different level.
Well, yeah, you had his and hers bers and now you had his, hers, and ours.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
And the complexity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His, hers, and ours.
Maybe great lines.
Maybe that's the title of their
today.
podcast. I don't know.
Well, it's true. We joke, he's the glue, but someone else said to me when I told them I was pregnant, they said, and it was a very spiritual friend. She said, what affirmation, that, because she knew it had been 3 years.
Right.
No birth control, 3 years. You figure that's okay. It's not happening.
Right.
And how, what affirmation from God, from spirit that,
Do you feel that your body has a wisdom that it grew into, okay, I can create this life now because I'm in a better place?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's such an important thing. And I think if you're talking about sexless marriages, I think that's kind of what happens is that a woman's body starts to shut down if her heart starts to shut down. And initially, I think we have sex because we don't want him to cheat or we don't want him to feel like, unimportant, because I think that's a really validating thing for men. But then it drains us so much that we go, well, we're not feeding this relationship. So my body can't do that anymore. Yeah. And then, you talk about working through feeling safe with someone.
Yeah.
And then your body suddenly goes, okay, ready.
Right. And I can remember too, it was such a poignant time when we found out. And as we were planning a trip to Greece, that's not going to happen. We have other plans for the summer. But I can remember, I won't say euphoric, but I remember just feeling like, things are clicking. This is meant to be. This is synergy.
Good one, G.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. Can I do it?
Yeah. Is this new? Every time we use the word synergy, we ring the bell? Okay, great.
I love it. No, but it's true. And I'm sure we've talked about this before, I'm sure, when all the bells and whistles, when everything's clicking, it, your body even tells you. Yeah. And the opposite of that, right, is when we are fear-based decisions and you're in knots.
Yeah.
And
right.
You're just trying to use your mental wisdom, but your body's telling you, stop, bad decision.
We've run into that many times, right? Couples that we're working with that can't have kids, that are trying really hard and, they have that distrust in their relationship, disconnect. And then when they start repairing that, all of a sudden they get pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had a little health journey.
Yeah, I did. Cancer, breast cancer. Yes. Yeah.
How'd you guys get through that?
Fortunately, my breast cancer is predominant in my family. It's not what woman has it. It's who doesn't have breast cancer is the minority in my family. Fortunately for me, we caught it early detection. I did a lumpectomy and radiation. I didn't have to do a mastectomy or chemo. So that's a long-winded way of saying, in my mind, pragmatic mind, it wasn't as tough of a journey, not going through chemo, not going through major surgery. It was an emotional time, but it wasn't, I don't know. We didn't really.
I felt like she had it, under control. Like she was. And honestly, I think you would have, even if it was a much, call it a worse stage diagnosis, she was, I guess, what's the word? You felt comfortable, not comfortable, but, you kind of were confident that she knew, what she had to do and go through regardless of what the outcome was. Now, again, it was early stage, which was great. So it gave me confidence to feel like she had confidence. She wasn't scared. She was actually very confident about, how she was going to get through it.
And that's a good point. I never asked you, were you scared?
I wasn't that scared. I was a little bit scared because, we were waiting to hear, was it in her lymph nodes? And then a little bit in her lymph nodes, but they didn't count that because it was just like trace. So that's the only time I was a little bit nervous.
Was there a car involved in this?
That was his scare, his health scare.
Okay.
My health scare?
Yes.
Oh.
That was his.
I was just remembering the car.
Yes. Okay. So fast forward a couple of years later, you had colon cancer scare, right?
Yeah, scare, but it was not cancerous. Yeah.
But it was still a pretty big surgery. And then,
that was, yeah.
Yeah. And then he went out the night before and bought a car.
Oh.
Because as we all do, usually right before a surgery.
It's coincidental. I had a car that had thousands of dollars worth of repairs that were going to probably eventually need to be made. And I thought, let's get rid of this car and get another one, trade it in.
Surgery.
Yeah. It takes your
not related at all.
I don't think so.
No. What kind of car was it?
It was a Mercedes R350.
Oh, that's not related, at all.
So that had a ton of damage.
It was
not
a
damage,
Subaru.
It was a beater. Just had to have it.
And it was not. I mean, it was an okay car. You think Mercedes, things built like a truck. Like it's nothing's going to happen to it.
You're not going to convince him that this was weird in any way.
They gave me the diagnosis of the car, and it was not good. So I'm like, I'm trading this thing in.
Yeah.
And sure, it had the added benefit of keeping your mind off of things,
Yes.
So. It's the happy coping skill.
Figured she needed a new car if anything happened to me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, see?
It was all for me.
She could remember me by it.
So how many years into the marriage, did you guys have this scare?
My
diagnosis,
it was 2013, so.
That was the 20, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And
So that was what, just 10 years into it.
10 years into it. So did you guys talk about it? I mean, I know you just asked him now if he was scared, but.
Well, I'll say this. She had built, or a family member had built like a cancer family tree of everybody in the family who had cancer, what type of cancer. I know because I put it on to like a flow chart or whatever, right? A little family cancer tree.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. And like an org chart, if you will, of her family and all the various cancers. And, you know, it's sobering when you see that, right? But having done that before she had her diagnosis, right? You know, you're kind of like, you get it, you understand. So when she got the news, it wasn't that surprising, I guess. Because
it wasn't shock. Well, it wasn't a shock.
Wasn't
just
shock.
Knowing the
like,
family history.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
And I think, again, I was pretty, you know, not that you know everything, but I was pretty tuned into what my relatives had gone through and what my odds were with this level. I mean, it was like stage 1. It was so, and I was prepared. I'm still prepared. I said to him, I get checked regularly. I told him if it comes back, then I'm going to have a mastectomy and we'll take care of it. We'll go from there. So there's no guarantee that I'm healthy right now, but there's no guarantee that it won't return. And I have had relatives who have had reoccurrences. I have a cousin my age, 50 years old, who is stage 4 and has been stage 4 for miraculously 8 years.
Wow. So while you're going through it, she's also going through it at that level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this is kind of goofy to tie back in, but the not worthy, like in my family, I didn't feel worthy to complain about my cancer because it wasn't,
right.
It really wasn't that big.
It wasn't a higher stage.
It wasn't a higher stage, and it wasn't what Jennifer went through or what Sally went through or what,
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm not going to complain about it. So just,
So do you find that the scares that kind of both of you went through, has that impacted your relationship in any way? Do you buy cars every week or something like that? I mean,
we do.
Every time I have a health scare, yes, buy a car. I never put the two together. No, when I went through mine and, I was in the hospital for one of them, and it's the first time I really saw her worried.
I was worried, but he really did have a situation where, they always tell you after a surgery, well, if you have bleeding, contact. He did. He had complications. We had to take him back to the hospital and he was bleeding. And literally, they admitted him to a room and he went kind of gray. The paddles came in the room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They didn't paddle me, but I had fainted.
They didn't paddle him, but when you see a room full, that was like a watershed moment for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not something that was on my radar,
Yeah.
And, so you sit back and you go, okay, we're in the process and we're so focused on building this life together and blending this family. And yet there's no guarantees and we're not here forever. And so what if?
Cherish every moment.
Right.
Did you do the hypnosis script for pre-surgery that I created?
Sorry.
Well,
next
I
didn't know about it.
Next time.
I didn't know about it.
That'll be on our YouTube channel. That's our most often listened to one. And it's really amazing because when you go through surgery, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a trauma or something beneficial. And so when you do that, it really helps with not having complications and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll never
have to listen. Let's hope. Let's hope.
Well, you talk about not having any guarantees, and I think that obviously there is a guarantee, and that is that one day our marriages will end.
For sure.
We just don't know how or when.
Yeah.
Right. But at some point it will.
Everything that has a beginning has an ending.
Right. And, if you are not putting that care, and what was the other word? Care and feeding into the relationship, it's, obviously not thriving, and we're not really enjoying the moment and all the moments together that we can. Right?
What advice would you guys give to someone who is either contemplating leaving a marriage or blending a family? What kind of advice would you guys give to them?
Well, I will say when it comes to blending the family, I think trying to have as, traditionally normal a family life as possible is important for us. I think, taking the time to make sure the kids were together as opposed to just spending a lot of, me spending time with my kids, her spending time with her child, bringing them together.
We went back to basics. I mean, we'd have family game night. I mean, not that we were trying to be Ozzie and Harriet or whatever, Leave It to Beaver, but just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it really simple.
Sit around the campfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and talk. And also I don't know if it was family meetings or whatever. We used to have one of those flip charts and whatever the topic was. I think the girls, it came down to like, she borrowed my stuff and that was mine and mine. And so, we kind of listened to everybody, held, forum and had everybody put their grievances and, okay, well, this is going to be our family rules. And these are, we respect each other's things and you don't take something without asking. I mean, just basic.
Yeah.
Basic, but we don't do that anymore. We're so sophisticated now with all our technology.
Nobody takes Jimmy's stuff.
The good thing about having a boy.
Yeah.
One boy.
Yeah. But, it just kind of, I would say, it's about respecting the other's parenting style. I mean, we could do a whole separate podcast on parenting styles.
Yeah.
We had some different.
Do you know the
parenting
statistics? I think it's 62% of children today do not live with both biological parents.
I believe that.
So you guys are normal. This is the new tradition.
Right.
And navigating all of that.
Well, more, and you hear from the kids when you talk to your kids and you hear about other families. It's, Johnny's divorced, parents are divorced, and so-and-so's parents are divorced. Oh, and he's living with his aunt. It's like there's a lot of, non-traditional situations out there. And you think, wow,
But now this is the norm.
Right.
Yeah.
The norm. Blended family actually is the leading family structure in the United States.
Which is, surprising.
And I think the key for it too is, I think it's the kids feel respected and heard, but whether they're his or yours or ours, it's still respect of the parents, of the adults that are in that household. I mean, obviously you have to be age appropriate, but for us, I think I've seen, we fell into traps with, you feel the guilt or you don't see them that much. And so you're going to let them get away with a lot more than if they were in your house 24/7. Right.
And that's natural, right? I mean, I think when we experienced it, of course, with my daughters, where they would come over for short periods of time. Do you make them do chores the whole time they're there? Right. It's that eternal struggle of how much.
Yeah. Zoe gets to be the maid because she's here 24/7 and she has to pick up everything, but we don't expect them to pick up when they're here,
Right.
So it's a balance.
Yeah.
Balancing
those
act.
are hard things to navigate. So, you impose some, rules on the short stay people, right? But it's a balancing act. It's tough. It was not easy. I'll tell you that, going to pick up. Yeah. I drive an, half hour each way to go get my daughters just to bring them back for a meal for literally 2 hours sometimes or an hour and a half. But, at first it was like, I have to do this drive. But then over years, you think all the time I had in the car to have conversations with them till damn smartphones came.
Right.
But I think to take a step back and just we would tell new families blending or thinking about blending is sit down and talk with your significant other about what kind of family unit are you building here? What are you going to look back on in 20 years and go, it was good. We did good. And really plan it out like you would to build an addition to your house, a physical addition to your house. Think about it and talk about it.
So the planning of the care and the feeding.
I think so.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you don't just go garden, right? You plan it out, right? I'm going to put, this here, that there. And it's the same thing. Even though, you may not agree, you can keep those disagreements, outside of, the children's view, right? And then you appear to be a united front in front of the kids.
It's just hard. It's hard.
It is hard sometimes.
And the disagreements are happening before the event.
90% of them Yes. You want to get as many out of the way as possible. You're going to have those, right? But, at the end of the day, you talk it through and you get on the same page as much as possible.
We would do you remember, we'd recap, the girls would go home or people and after a weekend and be like, okay, wait a minute. This part went okay, but boy, this was a disaster. What did you mean when you did that? And
so you're processing afterwards.
Yeah, we did.
Right? Yeah, so you can improve.
Yeah.
Right? Process improvement.
So what you're talking about is creating a common vision, right? And then actually executing it. And then afterwards kind of talking about
debriefing.
Yeah, debriefing.
Feedback,
yeah.
I mean, it sounds very much like, what you would do in business.
Yes.
It does. And sometimes you're up for it more than others. But I think at the end of the day, if we're going back to care and feeding, you can wing it and your garden might be just fine.
Right.
We're pretty haphazard.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Jean's garden?
No, not this year. So far.
That's an off year. We get it. But, I think, and not that we planned every single thing. I don't want to, I'm not trying to be Pollyanna.
But you did spend a great amount of effort and time to try to have a direction and not just wing it.
And the biggest compliment I can remember very poignantly, we traveled with the kids for the first time overseas, and Jimmy was a toddler and the girls, were a little bit older, and we had a long layover and they're playing some invented game that they made up. And I don't even know what it was. And another woman was watching us. And she came up and she just said, may I just say, you have a beautiful family.
Mm.
And whether she knew we were yours, mine, and ours, I don't know. But for me, just an outsider, stranger looking in, that just was such validation.
Yeah, I remember that. That was, we were in Germany.
Super cool.
We were in Germany. Mm-hmm.
So what is it that your partner does that they love you?
He's a really good cook.
Food equals love.
I agree.
Nurture. Yeah.
We talked about the little things, just, I picked up that whatever for you that you mentioned.
The raspberries and the chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And for her, it's when I know when she we're watching TV, Netflix or whatever on the couch, and she just snuggles up, and she's close, right? You feel that closeness, and it's, because she could just lay on the other side of the couch, be far away, right? But, it's when she snuggles up and feels that sense of, you feel that sense of connection, okay, she loves me.
Well, I told him just the other day, I said, I want you to know, because knowing we were coming here, and I don't know, I was randomly thinking about all kinds of things. I said, I still do get excited, unless we're having an argument, but I do get excited when I hear his car come up the drive. I still get that feeling, oh, Dad's home. He's home. Yay. I just do.
This is the Mercedes.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's BMW now.
That was another health issue, but I can't.
No. Perfectly fine.
Well, Bob and Deb, we want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today. This has been quite a joy for us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Fun. Good time.
Human beings have been sharing stories for thousands of years to bond, to heal, and to grow. And we hope that by you guys sharing your story, it's enriched your lives and the lives of our listeners.
Thank you.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
For all you listening out there, if you have any questions or topic suggestions, please feel free to leave a comment or look us up online at couplesynergy.com. And please feel free to leave a review, subscribe to the podcast. Until next time, synergize your life, synergize your love.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Kadkodian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Kadkodian. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.